Evening and welcome to the June Recreation Commission meeting. I'm going to start off with the notice of recording. Please note that it is being recorded and broadcast on Channel 18, and in accordance with MCL Chapter 3820, we must inquire whether anyone is taping this meeting and to please make their presence known.
Sandra's not with us tonight, but she'll be doing the minutes off the recording of the meeting.
Thank you, John, for acknowledging the recording of our meeting. I'll now go with roll call. I will say your first name. If you can just repeat your first and last name and say present, that will help us with the recording of our minutes. Starting with Jim.
I am present.
Oh.
Which one?
Alyssa. You're on mute.
Alyssa Chase, present.
Thank you. Tim.
Tim Lou's present.
Brendan, hi. We can't hear you, Brendan.
I think he's having trouble connecting his audio.
So I will go ahead and say Brendan Burke is present working on technical difficulties. And I don't see James and I don't see Sharon, so I have not missed anyone.
No, I'm here, Renee.
Oh, Jim, did I call you and you said present? Yes?
I did. Yep.
Very good, very good. We have another James O'Leary.
He's also here.
Oh, where? Oh, there you are. So let me hear you say Jim, and you can say first and last name, present.
Jim O'Leary, present.
All righty, we got through the most difficult part, roll call. Let's move right on to our May minutes. May I ask for a motion to accept the May minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Who was that accepted in second? I know Jim second, and who was the one who made the motion?
The other
Jim O'Leary made the motion. Jim Tenalia seconded.
Thank you so much. Because Sharon's not here, I know how difficult it is to record the minutes. All righty, so thank you for that. Any discussions on the minutes, any corrections, any additions? All right, we must go through the name to verify your acceptance of the minutes. So I will start with Renee King accepts the minutes. Jim T.
Yes.
James O'Leary.
Yes.
Alyssa Chase.
Yes.
Tim Luce.
Yes.
And Brendan Burke. So hearing all acceptings, our minutes have been accepted. All righty, it is with great pleasure that I move into new business. And Tom O'Neill is here from the Sandy Neck Board, which we actually have a responsibility to have a seat on this board. And I thought it would be a good idea for Tom to tell us a little bit about what the Sandy Neck Board does, what their charter is, when they meet, and answer any questions we may have. So without any further delay, Tom. Please take yourself off mute.
So thank you, everybody. Appreciate the opportunity. Just a little bit of background. I've been on the board since 2013. I think I became chairman about five or 6 years ago. I can't remember. And I'm just going to cover a couple of things to give you some background. First of all, the charter for the Sandy Neck Board and for Sandy Neck generally kind of derives out of a document that was completed back in, I believe it was 2003. It was a study by the Woods Hole Group. And it kind of resulted in a fairly radical change to Sandy Neck. Prior to that time, the beach park used to be run by the board, actually. It didn't really have much of a management structure. It was a pretty loose, structure there. And after that study, one of the things that, or several things came out of that study that were quite new. One was to create a board, which was more of an advisory board as opposed to operational. So that's what we are today. It also established a management structure for the board. So Nina and Don and all the people down there that run the place, that's a relatively, that was put in place back at the same time the study, just after the study was done. And also kind of, it set up the sort of strategic focus areas for the board and for the management, the senior management of Sandy Neck. And when I say that, I mean, we do get to some extent involved in a few operational issues like regulations and fees, things like that. But generally our focus area is more strategic. We're not running the beach. We have competent people doing that. So our board's responsibility is to look out in the future and to try to understand what things that could happen or may happen or are happening, and if that may affect the beach in some way. And we have really three strategic areas that we focus on. One is economic sustainability. Obviously, this is an enterprise account. Sandy Neck runs solely on the fees collected by users. We take in about $1 million a year in fees. Most of that's coming from the off-road trail. And those fees cover more or less the operational cost. We also have a reserve fund, which we use for incidentals like putting sand in front of the beach when we have erosion problems and other kinds of project work. I mean, this year, one of the big issues with respect to economic sustainability was to really make a pretty radical change in the way we do fees. We did a study going back to 2009. What we saw was that the usage by Barnstable residents over that period from 2009 to present remained very flat. At the same time, the use particularly of the off-road beach by people from out of town went up 3 times. So one of the things we did, normally there was some sort of a relationship between town payer fees and people from out of town. We decided to break that relationship. So essentially what we did is to keep the Barnstable rates where they are. People are paying enough, and put the burden more on the out of town people. And we raised up the rates quite significantly, and I'll come back to this in a minute as to partly why we did that. But essentially, this needs to be run as a business in that sense. We need to be looking at opportunities to raise fees in a way that's consistent with users. So that's what we did. So that was a key area this year, and that is something it's sort of operational, but at the same time, I'm explaining this because it is a kind of a strategic issue for us in making that kind of change. The second area of focus, and this maybe is where the RecCom particularly links with Sandy Neck, is public outreach and participation, use of the beach by multiple stakeholders. So we have campers, day trippers, people that go to Bodfish Beach. We have cottage colony people. We have all the flora and fauna out there. And that's one of the complexities of Sandy Neck, is that the charter established Sandy Neck as, in a sense, to be utilized equally by those people, by those stakeholders. So one of the things we're always dealing with is a balance between human use, for example, and animals, particularly, let's say, as an example, plovers. Every year we have, the same issue: birds on the beach has to be closed, people are unhappy. So we're always managing that complexity with all these different stakeholders. So that becomes sometimes a matter of making sure we are communicating with all the stakeholders. So we do spend a lot of time talking to Mass Beach Buggy. We talk to the colony owners, et cetera, to make sure that they're represented. But the public outreach, includes the use of the facilities in a myriad of ways. And one of the things that we do quite often is we have Eagle Scout projects. A number of Eagle Scouts have done projects out of Sandy Neck as part of their work towards an Eagle Scout badge. All kinds of things like repairing facilities to building new birdhouses and benches and water supply systems and stuff like that. So we encourage everyone to use the beach as much as possible. I mean, the beach itself gets used quite a bit, but there are facilities, for example, on the Marsh Trail and all the way out to the colony there that maybe don't get used as frequently. In that respect too, we cover regulations, safety are both components of that area, making sure the staff as well as the users are safe, and that the regulations evolve with time, and they have. A lot of things have changed over the last 4 or 5 years to some extent to encourage better behavior on the beach, but also to protect the staff as well. The final area is coastal resiliency, conservation. And this is really a key strategic issue because, as any of you who use the beach know, it is subject to storm damage on a regular basis. And the challenge is that you're dealing with uncertainty because we don't know when these events are going to occur. But in some years they've occurred right after the other and taken, thousands and thousands of cubic yards of sand off the beach, particularly right in front of the bathhouse, which is dangerous because we've got a septic system there plus the bathhouse, but almost as importantly, the parking lot is at risk. And that does provide revenue, and it's one of the, Barnstable is not blessed with tons of beaches. It's one of the few beaches in Barnstable that the public can use. So we don't want to lose the parking lot. If we did, we would not be able to replace it under the existing regulations. So we do have a major project going on right now. It's probably the largest project ever at Sandy Neck to look at the options for improving coastal resiliency. It's a large project team. We have, I think there's 3 or 4 different consulting groups involved. I'm on the team, Nina's on the team. And we've had, I think, 3 public meetings now. So we've kind of been going down a funnel of looking at, what's the issue, what are the options for resolving it, and coming up with solutions, refining those solutions. It's tricky. It's going to be very costly. It's going to be very difficult to permit. There's probably 7 or 8 different permits that have to be obtained. You're dealing with critical area of beach. But essentially what's planned is to move the parking lot back and basically put all the facilities, this doesn't involve the bathhouse, but basically the parking lots, move them back so that they're behind a 50-year line of erosion. So there's a projected 50-year erosion line, which has been verified by multiple studies. Obviously not necessarily 100% accurate, but as best as we can tell, we have a line where we kind of can see, over 50 years where the erosion is likely to reach. And we're going to put everything behind that essentially. So it's a major reconfiguration of the whole beach park because it involves all the roadways. We're also going to be moving the gatehouse probably because that floods where it's currently located. And, there's some issues with the off-road trail. So there's quite a complex project. We could be talking $4 to $5 million to do this project, and probably $1 million a year after that to keep it, because you still will need to put sand out there occasionally. So it's a complicated project. Board's heavily involved in this right now. We're all kind of working on it in one way or the other. So those are the 3 kind of strategic areas we focus on. Keeping the business going, so to speak, public use, and then the coastal resiliency. I think I'll stop there and see if you have any questions. The connection to the rec committee, I really don't know. It's an interesting question. We have, the way the board is currently structured, we have 7 members. One is a member from the college, the cottage colony, 1 for the rec com, and then there's 5 at large. I don't really know the history of, I can understand the cottage colony, it makes sense. The rec com, I'm not sure of the history of that. I assume it probably has something to do with our second strategic area, public outreach and participation and use of the facility. But, historically, we have had a member, Joe O'Brien was on the Sandy Neck board. And it's now been a year since we've had that vacancy. And I'm kind of getting a little, as Renee knows, I'm getting a little impatient with the fact that we haven't filled it. And I completely understand if nobody's interested, but if they aren't, then I want to fill it from the regulations will allow us to fill it from the general public, and then that individual then would be connected to the RecCom to make sure that your interests are, heard. So that's the second option, I guess, if we don't get a nominee from the rec committee. So I'll stop there and just see if anybody has any questions.
All right, I will start by opening questions from the other commissioners. I have a few, but I'll start with the commissioners or the staff.
Renee, I'll ask, not really ask a question, but I mean, I'll look into why the rec commission was put on to be on the Sandy Neck board. I mean, at one point, the recreation division was responsible for the management of Sandy Neck. But that was a long time ago. So maybe that was just a holdover from that time. But I can look into it from people in town that have been around for a while to see how that got started.
I wouldn't
but
be shocked, John, if it was tied to that as one of those stipulations to separate off. There was probably a board seat
Still-
requested at that point in time, would be my guess.
Yeah, to still have some sort of connection, but I
Yeah.
can definitely look into like the year or why, but that's the only thing I had to offer. I didn't know if anyone had questions.
So I have a few questions, John, first of you in terms of, and Mark, in terms of the recreation programs that we offer, probably more you, John, outside of the HYCC. Do you currently offer programming that integrates Sandy Neck, or is that an opportunity for outreach for families and our youth to take advantage, or even our youth commission to take advantage of some of the resources over at Sandy Neck?
Yes, so we work with Nina and her staff, and we have a Sandy Neck Junior Ranger program that occurs during the summertime. And this has occurred now for years. Even during COVID, we still did something. It was more of a Sandy Neck provided a take-home, do-it-yourself type of exploratory program through Sandy Neck. But past COVID, we've done in-person stuff. I want to say it's like every Tuesday they meet at the Gay House, and they'll show them around Sandy Neck and teach them different things about what happens there and the wildlife. And so it's been a great partnership working with Nina on that with their staff, and that will continue as long as they want to continue it, because we love the program.
Okay. And then for Jim T, from a CPC perspective, when you sit on that committee and we reach out for funding for some of the projects and the needs we have, is there also someone there from Sandy Neck that does it on behalf of Sandy Neck? And would we be that link?
So there is nobody from Sandy Neck that sits on it. The Sandy Neck is allowed to go to CPC on their own and get funds that way. So they wouldn't necessarily have to come through recreation.
Okay, so that's kind of interesting how that aligns, how the chair assignment, we go there very specifically from our recommendations and our advice for recreation for the town. And why would that not include, Sandy Neck as it focuses on the area of recreation for the town? So that's just another area that I'm curious about. Tom, we are just finally getting staffed up to having our 7 commissioners, and most of the folks outside of myself, Brandon and Tim, are new. So we're bringing in some really great new commissioners, and we've got to get our arms around recreation and then move into Sandy Neck and CPC. So I'm going to be willing to sit in that role until we can get other commissioners at least familiar with what our scope of work is, and then we can kind of move beyond that. So that's primarily what 2022, 2023 has been about, recovering from our COVID and reseating our commissioners. I think the questions, so Tom, tell us when you meet and a little bit about the time commitment for your board.
Yeah, we meet every, I think it's the second Monday of every month unless there's a holiday. At 7 o'clock, we meet live. I find Zoom to be fairly useless for conversations and debate. It's okay for giving out information, but so we meet live. It's, I would say generally, depending on the agenda, it's generally pretty rare that it's not an hour meeting, and sometimes hour and a half, 2 hours, depends on the agenda. You know, if we have multiple presentations, you know, then it could be, it wouldn't be any longer, usually an hour, hour and a half, I would guess as an average. But I mean, Renee, are you saying, Renee, that you're going to sit in as the RecCom nominee?
We are going to go out on the field for our October and November meeting if that gets voted in by the commissioners. So we will be outbound just to get a scope of over, you know, all of the different areas that I'll cover in a minute that the Recreation Commission covers. And what we have traditionally done, usually it's every 5 to 10 years, is we take the road trip, make some recommendations based on a criteria, safety being the top criteria, bringing those recommendations to CPC and to the town manager. And we have a really great track record of what we've recommended has actually been funded and corrected. So that's kind of the first order of the day for us. I'm very familiar with our scope, so it makes sense for me to bring everyone up to speed on that and sit on the Sandy Neck so we can keep that continuity while it still makes sense. And we
You know,
also,
I guess you'll need to, I'm not sure the regulation issue here. You might need to speak to Ms. Cindy Lovell just to get, because normally I think that's a formal, a formal assignment that has to be,
yes, I'll have to apply just like
yeah,
Jimmy.
it's going to be an
did.
appointment of some kind. It's got to be formally done, I think, in the meantime. But
Right.
the next meeting will be in July. I believe it's the 12th, I forget now, but I can check. Let you know, but the June meeting was canceled. We had 3 people that couldn't make it, myself included, so light
So
agenda, so we.
In person, where are your in-person meetings? Is it at Sandy Neck or is it somewhere else?
No, we meet at the town hall, in the
Okay.
conference room right across the hall from the
Okay.
main meeting area.
Okay, and that's what, the Recreation Commission, just because of the convenience of the folks on our commission, most of our meetings are Zoom. We have a few in-person meetings throughout the year, but most of them are via a Zoom call. So those are the only questions that I have. Any other questions before we move on to the next agenda item? All right, so Tom, I will be working with Cynthia. I'll spend some more time with the commissioners to see if I have any volunteers. I have spoken to a few of you on other occasions, and let's just try to fill that slot for now while we get up to speed with our primary focus of the Recreation Commission.
Renee,
All
should
right.
we take a vote on a temporary assignment for you, just to make it official, so we don't have to come back for another meeting if Cynthia says?
Why don't we go ahead and do that, Jim?
I would make the motion to make Renee the temporary fill-in board slot on the Sandy Neck board as the recreation liaison.
And I will second that.
So all of those, any further discussion? So all those in favor of it, I need to go, I think I need to go through a roll call. So I'll go through the roll call. Jim T,
Yes.
Jim Zero, O,
Yes.
Alyssa C,
Yes.
Tim L,
Yes.
Brendan B,
Brennan Burke is here and he says yes.
I can hear you. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys.
You're looking good. So, all right, so that's what we'll do, Tom. I'll work with Cynthia, fill out the form. And, what I'm hoping, team, is that once we've visited the many recreation areas, that you move into a space that you're interested in and passionate about. That's what really makes being on the Recreation Commission cool, because it's your interest, not something that you have to do. All righty. So Tom, I really appreciate you joining us. So thank you very much.
You're most welcome. Hope it was helpful, and hopefully we'll get somebody from the RecCom to assign themselves to the Sandy Neck board. We look forward to it.
Excellent.
Anytime, Leslie, I'll send you the information, Renee, for July, just so you have it. And we'll look forward to seeing you at the July meeting.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, everybody.
To the next item. So is Aiden here from the Youth Commission?
No, their youth commission's not on tonight. I could present a little bit about what they did.
Okay, so why don't we move into the recreation staff report? Thanks, John.
Sure. Welcome, everybody. Just so everyone's aware, we did meet with Renee. So coming into the future, we are going to try to maybe change the way we present to you guys every month. But I kind of kept what I was doing, but we'll change it for now. We're just trying to keep you a little brief, main topics of kind of what the big things were for the month. So some of those big things were, I attended a Cape and Islands beach managers meeting, which we always meet in the fall and in the spring to kind of discuss where we're at with lifeguards, what the pay rates are, just kind of how we're shaping up for the season. And we met in Wellfleet, and that was a good meeting, and George Noonan and myself attended that. Recently, I met with Cape and Islands Tennis and Track Company. They're out of Bourne. If you're not familiar with them, they did build our tennis courts in Osterville and in Marston's Mills. They did the pickleball courts and tennis courts. They're a great business. And they have a new maintenance program that they're trying to get off the ground, where they'll go to your courts and they'll put up nets, take down nets, they'll blow off debris, they'll fill in cracks, they'll make suggestions on what kind of repairs need to be for the future. And it was a great meeting with them. I drove around town so they could see what the different courts looked like. And we will possibly be entering into an agreement with them to kind of keep an eye on our courts and maintain them, for the year. So it was a good meeting. Aquatics wise, so we opened up for the season on weekends only, Memorial Day weekend. We have a limited number of sites that are open with staff. We opened up Veterans, Calmus, C Street, Colville's, Craigville, and Dowses. We have lifeguards every weekend where they sign up, but we have gate staff and supervisors to check stickers and collect money as people are coming in at those sites. Starting on June 24th, we will be open up full time with the rest of the sites covered, and we will try to staff as many sites with lifeguards as possible. We'll know a little bit probably mid-month where we stand on that with our recruiting efforts and staff that's returning from the past. To date, we've issued over 17,000 beach stickers. So I believe at my last meeting, I reported we were about 11,000. So in 1 month, we've sold and processed over 6,000. Typically, we do anywhere between 20 to 21,000 stickers. We're cruising along. We're probably about a seven day turnaround right now. So if you if you applied today, most likely you see your sticker around the 12th or a little after, depending on if you did it through the mail. But the town manager did come out with a town manager report. It's on the town website. We will accept receipts. So if you did it online, you could print off your receipt to get into the beach while you're waiting for your sticker. All our lifeguard tryouts, all our scheduled lifeguard tryouts are complete. We'll probably have a couple more for kids that couldn't make those, but we're kind of gearing up for the season. And last I reported, we were doing a lifeguard training at Craigville. We got 14 people in the class, and we're eagerly anticipating them to finish the course, pass the exams, and then welcome them aboard to our staff ready to go for the 24th. Our leisure program had registration back in April, so we talked about that a while ago. All our programs are full. So all the sites that we have, all our slots are filled. So that's great news. It's the first time we filled in a couple of years. Again, I think we've talked about in the past, we're slowly but surely starting to see the numbers come back after COVID. Summer registration we held in May 10th. That went really well. A lot of people are signing up for your typical programs that we have: sailing, swimming, dance, gymnastics, tennis, a bunch of other programs, and that's going well. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts for the recreation division side of things. Youth Commission, they kind of are wrapping up or kind of have wrapped up. I think they only have like 1 or 2 more meetings possibly. But their big event was the Youth Summit, which they held on the 19th of May at BIS / the Barnstable Adult Community Center. That went really well. The kids had a blast. They learned from Kevin Rosario from Gosnold and Rob from Dynamic Influence, and the kids really engaged in those presentations, and they walked around to meet with like peer leaders from the high school. They had vendors over at the school, walked around to get information. It was just a great day. We've been doing it for years, and I think the only recommendation was to possibly go back to Cape Cod Community College. Just more room to do things. So probably next year we'll go back to the college because that's where we originally held it. We just hold it at the BIS and BACC the past couple of years due to some COVID restrictions that we were dealing with. But it all went well. They had their 2 regular meetings. They meet the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays of the month. And again, like I said, they're wrapping up. So they'll be transitioning over to the new leadership coming up. They do not meet during the summertime, so we will not see them in July. And they'll probably be back to the meeting starting in September. But the Youth Commission is a great asset for us. George Noonan, who is one of the adult liaisons to the group, does a wonderful job. The kids did a lot. And we're just looking forward to the continued success of that in the future. So that's my report for the month. If anyone has any questions, be glad to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions? All righty, hearing none, we'll move right into Mark Bordley's staff report.
Good evening, all. Real quick, or I'll take my time, but real quick with the HYCC staff report. Continuing of our renewals with our advertising throughout the HYCC. This is probably going to take a little bit of our process as it kind of paused with everything when COVID hit and not many people were coming into the building. So that's continuing. Our RFP for the HYCC concession went public May 22nd. We're really focused on trying to get somebody in here for the beginning of the next hockey season. That will close on July 6th. At that time, we'll review all that applied and make a decision and trying, like, as I said, to try and get that person in by September 1st. Our summer registration numbers for Learn to Skate and a new youth summer hockey league are slow to start. We do plan on trying to execute on both. I know we'll just have to focus here the next couple of weeks on trying to get more participants into the hockey leagues and trying to get a few more for our Learn to Skate program. In the gym and the youth center, we had a portable AC delivered today that will help keep us cool inside the gym for the summer. That's a big unit. If you guys drive by, you'll see it set on the side of the gym facing Stevens Street. Our SOAR program, our Schools Out After School Recreation, will be ending this month. They had their ice cream social this past Friday. Ben and Jerry's does a great job, comes out and sets up a little ice cream bar and sundae bar for all the participants. And our summer basketball clinic and with the high school coaches and the high school summer volleyball league out of the gym look good for numbers for the summer. And we'll be happy to be running those as well again this summer as well. That's it for me for now. If anybody has questions, feel free.
Mark, I just have a question for our listening audience about the RFP that went out for the concession stand. Where can someone who might be interested in that find the RFP?
They could go to the town website. If you go under the department links, it's the procurement office and it opens to a bonfire portal, it's called. And that's where you go in, you sign up and you can obtain RFPs, reply to them or inquire further about them.
Okay. Thank you. That'd be really great having someone in there before the hockey season kicks off.
Yes.
Any questions for Mark? All righty, we're moving along quite nicely. Let's move over to Jim for the CPC liaison report.
Our last CPC meeting was canceled, so no new updates. I will take a second. Does anybody have any questions about the liaison spot or think you might be interested in it?
Why don't we go some of what days do they meet? What is the time commitment and
Yep.
what has you gotten out of it? It's been pretty rewarding.
So it's the third Monday of the month. So doesn't conflict with this board. Third Monday of the month, 5:30. It's been Zoom since COVID. We've talked a couple times about going back in person. I think the July meeting might be, but probably going forward from there, probably still be online. Each meeting's call it an hour and a half, sometimes shorter, sometimes longer. Additional time commitments to that. I mean, you'll get a packet on Friday night that's anywhere from 80 to 100 pages. A lot of it is fluff, but it's just reviewing projects, and there's a lot of drawings and pictures and updates and stuff like that. I found it super interesting. I'd probably say it's really where I learned how the town budget works, in enterprise accounts and where money's come from and CPC money flows and CPI requests. And it's interesting to learn that there's a whole bunch of different buckets of money in the town and how it all flows through. But in reality, the CPC board is 3% of the tax revenue comes to this board to decide how it gets to be spent, basically, and either pass these projects or not. That comes in front of it. It's super interesting. I'd say it's a little bit more of a time commitment than the rec board, but I found it very worthwhile and very enjoyable time to spend on it. So if anybody's interested and wants to ask me questions offline, but if you have the slight inkling to do it, I would say go for it. It's definitely been a blast, and you get to really see these projects come to life from funding to through construction. So.
And Jim, can you share, we've been pretty successful with our recommendations in terms of things that we have found in our road trips that need attention and actually going forward and seeing that turns into tangible funding.
Yeah, so our road trip last time, big thing was the pickleball, right? So we got pickleball courts done at the Marston's Middle School. Safety concerns around the field. The Centerville playground was one. The Osterville playground was another one. So really, that road trip list has turned into a lot of success stories of being funded through CPC. And it's nice to go to CPC with this big list and say, hey, we've been out, we've looked at these, this is what the rec commission wants. It makes it a pretty easy approval process for the CPC board to look at and go, okay, recreation wants this and their full support is behind it. Makes sense to move forward with it. But CPC's funded a ton of stuff throughout the town. Lombard Field is part of it. The Hyannis Harbor Hawks Field. You can go on and on and on. Sandy Neck would have probably been smart to come for some some CPC money for that project. That might have actually been some money there for them, but maybe they can for phase 2 or something.
Yeah, they help with the LaRusso complex that Little
LaRusso,
League
yep.
uses. And there's so many more projects on the horizon. And it's really good for myself or Mark to kind of have a champion on that board. So when we are looking to get something accomplished with your support, that's one extra person on that board that is definitely going to be supportive of that project, and then can talk to the other people about that on the board about how important it is to. I believe there is the money already for Osterville, but not the whole thing. There's still more things that will need to be done. So again, if we have someone on that board, we can say, hey, we've gotten, the field was done, and now we're gonna, eyes on the future after we finish Centerville to do the playground, and then maybe the basketball court and hockey, and then maybe an outdoor bathroom. So again, just having someone to be a part of it would be, really important to kind of take on that role.
And
Jim,
I'll
are we,
go
can
ahead.
I ask, Jim, are we losing you?
I'm done, baby. Unfortunately. 2 little kids under 2 under 3. It's
Understand.
it's finally my
God.
time to hang it up after I think 7 years. So it's been
Hey.
a fun ride, but
Thanks for the
Um,
service, but I'm
yeah.
gonna miss you, bud. I'm gonna
I
miss
know,
you.
I know.
Just found this out. A little bit tear in my eye. All right. I see we have a question, so I'll let her go ahead.
Yes,
Yeah.
if I may.
Sure.
So for the CPC, I'm just a Osterville resident, and as a parent of a young family, I've been talking to other young families. There's a lot of interest in what's going to be built here in Osterville. So do I have to can anyone apply for the CPC seat?
So there are open CPC seats. This one is not. This one you have to be a member of the rec commission. So there's a rec commission seat that lives on the CPC board that the rec commission nominates internally. So I would say if you are interested, there will be a rec seat opening that I'm leaving. So there will be a rec seat opening that somebody from, who in theory takes my seat could take the CPC seat if they were nominated for it.
God,
Thank you.
it's a blow. It's a blow.
So I will say this, we're going to talk a little bit about this when I kind of briefly review our roles and responsibilities as recreation commissioners. I sent out a very brief presentation that says, well, what does it mean to actually be on this commission? And it's very similar to the history that we heard Tom share with us about Sandy Neck. The Recreation Commission at one point was more operational, and it is not operational. We are an advisory team of 7. We have a pretty broad scope of things that are recreation throughout the year, and then there are things that are connected with our school system that are exempt from our charter when school is in session, but when school is not in session, are part of our charter. So all of the playgrounds, the beaches, the athletic fields, the municipal ice skating rink, several buildings, all of our bathhouses, all those things are under the charter of the Recreation Commission. And I've been on the Recreation Commission for some time now, after taking the Citizen Academy, which allows taxpayers from Barnstable to kind of see how a town management operationally functions. And the goal of that academy is so that people within our community play an active role in what we have for recreational services. And I think there are 3 areas that are probably my proudest moments being on this Recreation Commission. We are the first town on Cape Cod that has smoke-free beaches. And the smoke-free beaches were a result of one letter from one physician who found the cigarette butts that kids were putting in their mouth in the sand. And he gave us a compelling story of how harmful that can be for young beachgoers. And with one letter, the commission took that on, and we now have smoke-free beaches. Another area that I'm really proud of, the Recreation Commission, was the upgrade for the skate park. And that's sometimes a community of youth that kind of gets unnoticed, right? And that's their thing. And their skate park had some real safety issues. And again, by going out into the community and talking to residents, talking to our elected officers, and looking at these facilities firsthand, we were able to secure funding for that. And then the most recent one is pickleball. Again, that was one community that said, hey, Recreation Commission, I hear you're successful getting things done. How about some recreational pickleball for our community? And we now have probably one of the best courts on Cape Cod. We just ran an income generating pickleball tournament over Memorial Day. Both John and I had a chance to go and meet that group, and they're coming back again because we have, and I forget, I always have to look at it, we have an enterprise account. So it's not a for-profit account, but we have to sustain the recreation through the income that we bring in through recreation, like the money that the rec makes with the beach parking stickers. So it's very, very, very rewarding to see that, you know, working here, that you are influencing things that happen to influence not only young people, but all ages and all.
Oh, Renee, we lost
You're
you.
muted.
You're
Renee, you're
muted,
still,
Renee.
yeah.
Renee, you're
Apparently we
muted.
are as well.
You guys have her cell phone number?
I do.
Yes, she was having trouble earlier.
No.
I think she figured it out.
To fill some time while she's off, as yeah, we did have we talked about it last meeting. We did have a pickleball tournament at Marston's Mills from the former girls JV volleyball coach who moved away and now is the volleyball coach at Clark University. He started up a new business doing pickleball tournaments, and he decided to run his first ever pickleball tournament in Barnstable. And I stopped by on Saturday. There was place was packed. All the courts were being used. The tennis courts had the portable nets out there. There were people wrapped around like 3/4 of the facility, sitting around waiting for their time to play. Things went really well. And they are coming back in the middle of July for the same thing, to do another tournament. And in working with them, good thing was, I think I mentioned last time to you guys as well, is we didn't deny any of our residents their playtime. So Monday through Saturday, we have organized free play where you don't have to be a member of any group. You don't have to be a resident per se. You can show up to those courts and play with everyone and have a great time. So we do that Monday through Saturday from 8 to 12. So we still allow them to have their time. And then the tournament came in after that and ran till about 6 o'clock. And they did that Saturday and Sunday. So again, it was a benefit that we have now because we have the courts and the space and to be able to do that. So when that revenue comes in for those rental fees in the future, when we need to buy new tennis nets or new pickleball nets or to paint the courts again, or so whatever we need to do, now we have some funds to help pay for that, because we don't have a budget line of tennis court maintenance in our division. So that money will go in there, sits in there, and then when we need it, we can use it. So it was really good. Yeah, Renee said she went on Sunday and they finished up and had their championship, and all was well. But yeah, the other one's coming up. I want to say it's like July 14th and 15th, Saturday and Sunday again, and looking forward to that.
Don, while we have you here, and not to cut you off and change the subject, but Renee's the MIA trying to get it going. And she may have already answered this question, I'm not sure, but you might be the better one to ask, and it's in pertaining to the field at Barnstable United. I know, from what I understand, it's actually the school that is responsible for maintaining that field, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so she may have answered this when she said that, some things fall under the rec commission charter, whether it's in school or out. Is that something that we could have any influence on?
Potentially, I actually have a meeting with the school on this coming Thursday. And I think the room for interpretation has always been out there as far as who has jurisdiction. So it says when school's in session. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean that you're actually in school, like, and you're done at 5:30 and then rec takes over? Or does in school session mean that it's during the school year, not necessarily time of day? But yes, after hours, after 5:30, I permit out all school fields except for anything at the high school. So if you want to rent out the LaRusso complex or something at High West or BWB, you would come to me to rent that out. But in sense, I'm like the middle person in the chain of events. So I let people know when things are available and make sure that we don't double book any groups, and give them the permits to give them access. But Recreation Division doesn't oversee maintenance of any facility. So if there was something wrong with the school facility, I would have to reach out to the school facilities department and say, Mike Lambros, there's an issue at X field. Could you please take care of it? And then Mike Lambros would delegate his staff to do that work. I can't tell him what to do and when to do it. I just let him know when things happen. Same on the Townfield side. If something happened at Osterville or Lombard Field, I would have to reach out to Structures and Grounds Division of the town, and they have their own field crew. And then I would hopefully get them dispersed to, fix something at a field or to install a new base if the base is broke or whatever it is. I have to then reach out to those groups. So I'm the middle person where I take all the stuff in and divvy out the permits, but we don't oversee the maintenance of things. I usually get a hold of people. So I do know that the school was out to Barnstable United last week. I don't know. I think they were trying to possibly get the sprinkler system up and running. But again, I'm not quite sure, but I have a meeting with them coming up. So I'll be interested to learn, kind of more about that. But I will reach out to those different parties to inform them of what's going on.
I mean, obviously I'm a little biased because that's where I want to run one of my programs, but it's just, there's been a lot of chatter around that field in particular lately. And just the condition that it's in, and, and everybody's trying, kind of like finger pointing as to who maintains it, who's responsible. So I was just wondering, as part of the rec commission, if there's anything that we as a rec commission had any influence on.
I think at some point there might be a time and a place for some valuable input. But yes, I did see some chatter on social media and alerted the school of that chatter, and they sent some staff out. But again, like I said, I'm like the middle person in that chain and try to do my best to make sure I'm communicating with all parties. But yeah, no, I mean, maintenance is a tough thing. We live in such a large town, square footage wise. And COVID certainly didn't help out with staffing levels. I am sure, just like we are short with lifeguards, full-time people are short with maintenance crews, where the town is probably short with staff and so is the schools. So you have to kind of prioritize when and what you're going to do. And right, they might go there and mow it every week or every other week, but do they have the time to put the
Seeded
irrigation
water, yeah.
system on and slice seed it and do what you need to do to maintain it with all the use they get? Again, I'm not privy to all those sort of things of what they're doing, but again, it's sometimes it's easier said than done.
What if, well, I'll talk to you offline about it.
Yeah, no worries.
Nothing I need to be done with you, yeah. All right, I appreciate it. I was looking for some feedback.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you, I'm back. So, did we have public comment, John, while I was out?
No, but you can certainly open it up to public comment. I don't know if anyone's here, but by all means, open it up.
Okay, but before I move to comment, open comment, are there any questions from the new commissioners in terms of what we cover? I hope that report was helpful.
Renee, I have a question. I know you said you sent out some information to the new commissioners, but I never received an email. I actually haven't received any emails for Recreation Commission. So I did email Sandra to let her know, but like I never received the minutes and I didn't receive any email.
All right. I have the wrong, can you
I just
type
want to
correct email address in the chat? So I'll make sure. We may have the wrong one listed.
Yep.
Did you receive the report? Jim O'Leary?
Yes.
Okay,
Hold
so
on. Yes, yep.
so Alyssa, I will resend it. It's a pretty thorough report. And Tim and Brendan, you both were on the last road trip, right? Correct?
Oh, you bet I was.
I was not.
So we don't have to make the motion tonight, because I do want the other commissioners to actually review the report. But my suggestion is that we will be meeting in person in July 10th at the town hall. That will be our in-person meeting, and that we consider putting a motion that we spend at least our October, but potentially our October and November meeting where we actually get in a van and we actually go to each of the towns. And we definitely will go to Osterville because that's an open, active project. We will look at anything else that's open, but if there's an area like what you brought up today, Tim, that we need to look at, we visit those, talk to the community, talk to the elected officers, and then make a formal recommendation in 2024. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. Any questions about that? Again, I always want to be respectful of everyone's time, and we're like a minute over right now. So let me move to open comment. Any public comment? Hearing none, I will pass it back over to John Gleason. We have something for Mr. Jim T.
Yeah.
And let's our presentation. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries. Again, on behalf of, the Recreation Division and I think everyone here tonight, Jim, we just want to thank you for your service. Really glad that I got a chance to work with you over these years and definitely, enjoyed some of these projects, but I will make sure we get you this in person, but Renee just needs to sign it. But again, it just says, in appreciation for your service and dedication to the town of Barnstable's Recreation Commission, with today's day on it. So you can put it in your office right behind you. But again, just, couldn't have done a lot of things without your support over these years to, get on the CPC, board and kind of push some of these projects through, and hopefully we can continue to push through in the Centerville project. We're meeting next week about that, and actually, about 10 days for that. So it'll be good to kind of finish that. But again, Jim, thank you for all your service, and we'll definitely miss you. And hopefully now with your young children, we'll see you out on the fields, around the courts, and looking forward to that. So thank you very much.
Absolutely appreciate it. Yeah, you'll definitely be seeing me more now on the user side. Maybe coaching at some point.
Yeah, we look forward to that.
And Jim, it's been a real pleasure working with you. I'm very sad to see you leave. I've spoken to a few folks from the CPC, and they are also equally sad. But we all understand that our families are important. They're only going to be young once in their lifetime. But I hope that when we put together our little fundraising to raise some funds to give back to the Recreation Commission, that I can reach out to you to help support that.
Absolutely.
All righty, but thank you. Tim or Brendan, would you like to say anything to?
Of course. Are you serious? Oh my, Jim, where to begin? Oh, I mean, oh my God. This is devastating news. It's devastating. No, not for nothing, Jim. You were probably legitimately like the best possible, like not knocking on you, Renee, Tim, and you knew people like Jim. Like you were probably the best person I've ever seen like sit on a board ever. It was incredible. You knew so much about everything. It made me feel horrible at first, but then I realized like, oh no, it's just Jim. He's just way too yeah. I mean, it's
the CPC, so somebody should get on it because that's where all the stuff flows through.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm gonna miss you. Oh, Jim, this is devastating news. But have fun. And as creepy as this sounds, I'll find you somewhere around the town.
Absolutely.
Right? And it's gonna be great. Oh, have a good one.
And Brendan, I really hope that you keep this relationship with Jim.
I'll try. It's all on him.
You want a mini Jim and get on the CPC. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. No, but again, it's been a pleasure, Jim. And I'll see you around.
Appreciate it. We'll see you.
Yeah, Jim, I know we don't really know each other personally other than this, but I would echo it to some extent. You've been solid, seem like a really solid guy, and obviously an asset to the town. So luck with whatever you do. And I run a couple sports programs, so if you want to coach something, let me know.
Definitely, we'll be in one of them at some point. You can trust on that.
Hey, baseball too. If you want to coach baseball,
yeah.
you have me too. Let's
kids are going to do it all. So. They'll be on all the fields and courts, so we'll be there for sure.
Good luck.
Thanks.
So I'm going to bring our meeting to a close. We have our next meeting, as I mentioned, will be on Monday, July the 10th, so that we are free and clear for the 4th of July week. It will be in person. We have the pickleball team coming to give us an update on pickleball. And John and Mark, can you just tell them briefly what the award ceremony is about?
Sure. So real quick, every year in July, we do a recognition of our staff of the year. So we have like a lifeguard of the year, gate attendant of the year, beach aide of the year. We have the leisure program counselor of the year. We'll have like our after school rec assistant of the year. And then Mark will have his HYCC rec assistant of the year award, just to say thank you to all of the staff that helps us throughout the year. There's multiple kids that work tirelessly for us to make our programs possible. Again, I always bring out, like someone like Brendan, when he was growing up in high school, would come over after school and coach basketball. We couldn't have those programs without that support. So we just recognize those kids that kind of go above and beyond, and we'll give a little ceremony and say a little about them on the 10th. which is the second Monday of the month. Against, like Renee said, we don't want to tie people up on July 3rd because of the holiday. And we voted last year to kind of be there, keep that in person and continue with doing the rest on Zoom. But it's a great evening of, just supporting our staff that works for us. Mark, do you want to add to any of
No,
that?
I think you hit it out the park. I mean, I second everything you said.
And this is a meeting, if you have relationships in the community, I would encourage you to invite people to come in person. I think that having a good showing for our amazing young people when they get recognized and receive their rewards. That's why the pickleball community will be with us. It's a large, very, very active group. So without any further delay, can I have a motion to end this meeting?
Come on,
So
Jim.
moved.
Oh, come on, Jim. There we go. Seconded. Oh. Oh.
All in favor can just say yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Brandenburg says
Yes.
yes. Hey, good night,
Everyone.
everybody.